Hey guys, Glenn here, and this is our third lesson on how to improvise. And in this lesson, we're going to be looking at modes. I'm going to give you a couple of exercises to do, and it's going to be great. All right, so this is welcome guys. This is good. If you're new here, why don't you consider subscribing? I put out a whole bunch of videos, usually 1 or 2 a week, all about jazz piano and how to play it. All right, now you can download the notes at jazzpianolessons.online. This is Blues for YouTube is the piece we're doing here. Now in the first lesson and the second lesson I played it for you and we talk a little bit about that. So if you haven't checked that out already, I would highly recommend doing that and then come back to this one. All right, so they're the notes as well. All right, so you'll get the tune itself and also the notes. Now you don't need to have to read because I do actually play it for you and show you how to do it. All right, so and now in the first lesson we looked at the blues scale. All right, we also then, so that's the blues scale there. All right, and then we looked at in the second lesson the arpeggios. All right, so that was what we did first. Now this lesson we're looking at the modes, and we're looking at, for this particular tune, we're going to look at just the MIXOLYDIAN mode, but in 3 different versions of that. And I'm going to give you 2 exercises on how you can practice that. But we're also going to look at 2 other modes that really cover the 3 modes that we're going to be looking at. They cover 90% of jazz playing. Now, we're not going to practice those other 2 modes, but we are going to look at them and talk about them first, just from a theory perspective, all right? And then we look at that in some other tutorials later on. All right, so here we go. Here's the tune. You can see the chords and that is there. Now, the first mode I want you to think about is the Ionian mode. Now, the Ionian mode is just the major scale. It's just the fancy mode name for a major scale. So modes, just in general, are just different starting points of the same scale. So if we have a minor scale, we can split that up and sorry, not split it up. We can just move it along and play it in different spots. For major scale, we play it in different spots. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that's basically that's the basics of it, right? And I'm going to show you a little bit about that. So here is C major scale, all white notes. All right, that's the first mode because I started on C and I finished on C. So that's called the Ionian mode of C major, right? Now, if I start on the second note and play the notes of C major, I'm playing the second mode, which is also called the DORIAN, all right? We're going to get into the DORIAN just in a little bit, all right? So the 12 major scales are really important for you to learn all of them because everything that we do, chords, making up 7th chords, 9th chords, 11th chords, all the kind of jazz chords, everything we do, we're going to be thinking about the major scale, how it relates back to that, all right? We're going to do the same thing here with the modes. Now there's lots and lots of modes, right? But we've got to start somewhere, don't we? All right, so we just start with a couple of them, all right? So that's the Ionian mode. Now I would encourage you to learn them at least in a few keys, all right, to start with, all right? So if you don't know all your major scales yet, that's worth trying to do that. All right, now here's the DORIAN mode. We just talked about that just a second ago. The DORIAN mode is the second mode of the scale. Now notice how I started on D, played the notes of C major, went D to D. Now, you can think of it slightly differently if you want to. Now, you might notice that D major, you might have known, has an F sharp and a C sharp in it, right? All right, that gives us our major scale sound, right? We have to raise that F so we get the sound of a major scale. If we do this, it doesn't have the major sound. This does, all right? And that's because we're following this formula, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, which our ear naturally hears. It's also called whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, right? So that's what's going on. And our ears naturally kind of hear that, if you've heard enough music, right? So we can think of it like this as well. 1, 2, flat 3, as in 1, of the parallel scale, right? So if we're going from D major to D Dorian, we'll think of it as flat 3, flat 7. If we're going from C major to D Dorian, we just move up 1. All right, does that make sense? They're the two different ways to think of it, right? D major here, we lower that third, all right? Lower the 7th note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to lower both those notes so they become white notes as well, okay? So that's one way to think of it. So sometimes it's helpful to think, you know, a flattened third, flattened 7th, and sometimes it's helpful just to think of it as a second mode. And it's really up to you how you do that, all right? So that's the Dorian mode. Now, where do you use it? How do you use it? Why do you use it? Well, when you're playing a minor chord, this is a great mode to go for. Now, there are other things you can take into consideration, but generally speaking, you will get away with this pretty much every time. If you're playing a minor chord, play the same Dorian of that. So this is a D minor, play D Dorian. Works, right? If I play E minor, I could play E Dorian, right? So there you go, right? That's all I have to do. Does that make sense? All right, so that's kind of the idea. If I play F minor, play F Dorian. All right, so you don't even have to think about what key am I in, where in the context of the song is it, all this. Now, if you're a more advanced player, you will be thinking about that, and you'll definitely do that. But to start with, if you see a minor chord, play the Dorian mode, or, you know, that's pretty much what we have to do, right? So now here's the MIXOLYDIAN mode. This one's really important as well. This is the 5th mode, or a flattened 7th. So here's C major scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I start on a G and play C and G to G in the key of C, all right, there you go. That is literally G MIXOLYDIAN. That's as easy as it gets, right? All right. Now you might know that G major, the scale, has an F sharp in it. All right. All right, that gives us, that formula stays the same. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. That means we have that F sharp in there, okay? So you can see that the other way to think about the mode is to lower the 7th. So if I'm thinking G major to G MIXOLYDIAN, I'm going to lower the 7th. All right, if that makes sense for you. Now, that's usually the way I actually think about this particular mode, because instead of counting up 5 notes and trying to work out, you know, what key, you know, am I meant to be playing in here, I can just if I'm playing an A flat 7 chord, you know, here's the 1 and the 7, you know, there's my 3. If I'm playing something like this, or let me just put it up here. If I'm doing that, I can just think A flat major scale and lower that last note, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's normally a G, so I'm going to play G flat. All right? So there you go. That's how you do a MIXOLYDIAN mode. You can see how knowing your major scales is actually really helpful for this, right? Makes sense, doesn't it? Now, 2-5-1s is what happens a lot. We're going to talk about that in another video really soon, and 2-5-1s is where we kind of stay in the same key. So we can talk about that. So you can see obviously that these modes are actually just ones, can sometimes be one scale. You could go from one mode to another mode and stay in the same scale. So if you're playing D minor 7, G7, these are just in root position here. You can D Dorian, G MIXOLYDIAN, C major, the scale, or C Ionian, right? But you could see that all of those were just white notes, right? All of them belong to just C major scale. They didn't change. I didn't change key at all, right? Now, that doesn't always happen with jazz. Jazz changes key a lot. So you can think, you know, moving mode by mode by mode, or sometimes we think in keys for a little while. But I'll talk about that in another lesson. All right, here's where we're going to get specific for what we're doing now for this Blues for YouTube song. So we're going to look at three MIXOLYDIAN modes, okay? So 3 MIXOLYDIAN. We'll look at the F1, the B flat one, and the C one, because they go with the F7, the B flat 7, and the C7. All right, we're I'm going to show you them slowly. I just wanted you to hear them, okay? So the F MIXOLYDIAN. So what I want you to do is practice them 1 or 2 octaves. All right, work out some fingering that's going to work for you. Play the, the chords that we were doing before. The 2 and 3 and 4 and, when we were playing along, there's B flat, back to the F. All right, and play with a rhythm, change. Just play them up or play them down and see how you go with that. That's the first exercise. So let's do that really slowly together. Let's play an F7. I'm going to play an E flat and an A, which is my 7, my 3. I'm just going to play it slowly, but I'm trying to give some rhythm there. All right, then I'm going to go to the B flat chord. Now all I need to do is bring these 2 down. All right, now the B flat, let's see, the B flat one, I should have pressed that button, shouldn't I? The B flat MIXOLYDIAN, I've just shortened it B flat mix, has, of course, the lowered 7th, right? B flat major has the B flat and the E flat, so we're going to add the A flat, okay? All right, come back down. And the C MIXOLYDIAN, which only has 1 flat, and that is the B flat, all right? So here is 1, 3, and 7 of the scale, the chord. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, lower that 7th. We get that B flat. That's one way to think of it, remember? Now, I want you to play them with the song. So that's your first exercise, okay? So you've worked out how to play it. And then, okay, here's the song. 2 and 3 and 4 and then go to the B flat. Back to the F. Here comes the C. Now we're not going to make it the whole way through, so kind of then change as you go. But the first few notes of F are the last few notes of the C one, so it's going to be okay. So play through it like that. Play it up, then play it down. B flat. All right. It's not musical yet, but you can see that this is a helpful exercise for you to do that. So play through the song with that. When we get to the B diminished, don't worry, just don't play it, right? Okay. When you get to the A minor and the D, don't worry about that. Just forget about that for now, okay? And we can look at that in our next lesson, our lesson 4, all right? So let's go now to... So yeah, play them up and down, just in that, starting, if it's F7, start on the F, if it's B flat 7, start on the B flat, right? But then I want to show you something of how these 3 modes are very similar, okay? So there's the 3 modes, but I'm going to layer them on top of each other here, right? Okay. All right, so what we've got here, now C MIXOLYDIAN isn't starting on the note F, right? So I think that kind of defeats the point of a C MIXOLYDIAN, right? We don't want to play. We don't really want to do that. It doesn't kind of work quite as well as starting on the C. It just works better like that. All right. But the point is, I want you to see where the notes are the same and where the notes are different. All right. So with the F MIXOLYDIAN, we have a B flat and an E flat. When we change to the B flat, what note is different? Okay, there's only one note that's different. Now, it's this A flat, if you haven't seen that already, there it is there. It's the A flat is the only note that's different. So when you're playing the scale, changing, all right, so see how I just could have kept the scale, went up the scale. Let me just get rid of that for a sec so you can actually see my hands, right? So but forget about the C MIXOLYDIAN, that's up there, right? This is just, I'm doing the F MIXOLYDIAN, then the B flat, right? All right, there we go. I'm going up the F. As I change to my B flat chord, okay, I'm going to come down the same scale, and I'm just going to change that one note that needs to change. Instead of the A, I'm going to play an A flat. All right, to see how that works, so go up the F, come down the B flat. That one note just makes such a difference. So here's another way to think about it. Really, it's just that A needs to change to an A flat. Now you might remember that's one of the guide tones that changes as well. So it's interesting that the E flat changes to the D, all right, as well when we as a guide tone, right? But the D belongs to both of the scales. All right, so let's go back to the three modes that we've got on top of each other. Now, looking at the C Mixolydian, there's only one note that's different from the F Mixolydian. Okay, so you can see here that there's an E flat, all right? There's an E flat here and there's an E natural, but all the other notes are the same. Now, there's two notes different from the B flat, but there's only one note different from the F, all right? So you just need to kind of do that and change that, all right, at the kind of appropriate time. So what I want you to do is, this is the exercise number 2, is go back to the song. I'll just go back there. Here we go. All right, so we're going back to the song. Too far? Oh, there we go. So I want you to play up and down the scale, starting and finishing wherever you want, and as you change chords, change to the appropriate different mode, but without starting the mode again. So we're not doing this now, B flat. We're not doing that. I want you to do that, but that was your first exercise. Here's the second exercise. Start on the F. I'm going to keep going up. See I added in the A flat? I'm going to come back down here, back to the F. So I'm going to play the A natural now. Now here I go, I'm going to play the E, right? Not the E flat. Back to the, now I'm back to that E flat. I might head up now, so I've got the beat. Does that make sense? All right, here comes the B chord. 2, 3. I'm just going to play, let's just play a couple of notes from the arpeggio there. That's just the notes of the chord, right? Back to the F. All right, have a little rest. I'm going to play the notes of the chord. And then here, I'm just going to come down the scale. And I could go back to the F and go to that E flat, or I could go E to that, oops, wrong chord there, yeah, to that E flat there. So that's your second exercise. Go up and down the piano, just keep going and see how you go. Now you can extend that exercise a little bit if you want and do like thirds and change at the right time as you go. That's something you could do. And then of course start trying to improvise with that, okay? So and then once you've done that, so start improvising with the modes. Up the chord. I'm going up the mode. Here's the G minor. Here's the C Mixolydian, F. All right, so just kind of, improvise around that, have a go at that. Now, once you've done that, just thinking modally for a little while, I want you then to try and bring in, again, the blues scale a little bit, and then bring in some of the arpeggios that we looked at in the last lesson and the guide tones. All right, so put it all together and see what you can come up with.